Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa sallallahu ala rasulillah. I'm Brother Ali and welcome to Face to Floor. Inshallah, we're going to do another vlog. This is going to be a continuation of the series, Advice to a Poor Black Muslim Youth. Inshallah, this is part 2. Inshallah, God willing, you can see part 1 and there's some backstory of why this series is being done. Originally it was a series of blog posts, and now it's been converted to, we're going to do some vlogs, inshallah, some videos on the same topic. So inshallah, I just want to dive right in. So it begins, Advice to a Poor Black Muslim Youth, Part 2. After making a commitment to learning the Fardul Ain, we must understand the lay of the land and your place in it. Now the Fardul Ain, it refers to the personal obligatory knowledge, because the first step for one to, as a Muslim, to excel, he has to or she has to acquire the core knowledge, what is mandatory upon each accountable person. This is called Fardul Ain. And so we talked about that, and the core of that, the most important is the matters of the belief, to know, have the proper understanding of who the Creator is, have the proper convictions about God, to know that God, the Creator, Allah, exists, that Allah is the one and only God, there's no Creator except Allah, that the Creator, Allah, does not in any way whatsoever resemble the creations, that the Creator does not need any of the creations, that the Creator is not a body, not an object, not an image, that the Creator does not have dimensions, the Creator is not in a direction or in a location. The Creator is absolutely, totally different from the creations. Whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah is different from that. And the belief in the prophets, that all the prophets were men of the highest level of virtue, the highest level of integrity, the highest level of honor. They were all truthful, trustworthy, intelligent, and Allah Ta'ala supported them with miracles to prove that they are prophets. And there are other matters which are personally obligatory. And also in the last session we did talk about the matters of apostasy, to be warned about matters, beliefs, actions, sayings that would nullify a person's Islam. So this is the foundation. We have to acquire the personal obligatory knowledge, and in particular in this time to be strong in the matters of the creed and to understand matters related to apostasy, things that nullify a person's Islam. So with that said, with that background, inshallah, you will endeavor to acquire that knowledge, because this is the knowledge of your salvation. But in addition to that, we live in America, in the 21st century, and there are certain things you need to know, certain knowledge you need to have, and certain skills need to be in place so that you can survive in this 21st century economy and this 21st century society here in the West. So it says, we live in a globalized society. No longer are you merely competing with people from the suburbs for better jobs. Rather, you are going to be competing with hundreds of millions of people from India, or in India, in China, in the Philippines, in Latin America, and elsewhere, who are in gut-wrenching poverty and a poverty that makes the hood, quote-unquote, look like Beverly Hills. If you want to see real poverty, I mean real poverty, you can take a look at what they call the slums of Manila in the Philippines, for example. These are people you're going to be competing with. The slums in Bangalore in India. These are the people who they are hungry for the jobs in this new economy. There is a person, he wrote a book called The Earth is Flat, or The World is Flat. That's not literally what he meant by the title. The book is about what's happening in the global economy, with the internet being global, and how jobs, it's very easy to outsource jobs. His name is Friedman, I don't remember his first name right now. This gives you, inshallah, if you look at the book, or even if you look at on YouTube, you can look at some of the videos where he gives a lecture on that topic, and this gives you a sense of the people who you're going to be competing with. So you're not just competing with, if you wish, the white kids from the suburbs for jobs in the future. You're going to be competing in a globalized economy. So with that said, inshallah, let's talk about some of the things that you need to do to get prepared for that. It says the kid with the makeshift internet connection in his Bangalore shack doesn't care that your city government has cut funding at your school. They're not. The pity party thing is over. They don't care. These people are in real poverty. We need to look not only. We need to not only work harder, but we must work harder. We must work smarter. We must work smarter simply to compete. Take the time to view a documentary called 2 Million Minutes. 2 Million Minutes. If you can find it on YouTube, I highly recommend it, or you can find it elsewhere. It will give you, this documentary, it will give you a sense of the standard of education in other nations. Know your competition. Know what they have, what they are getting equipped with. And keep in mind, I am not talking about competing merely to get a job, but we must compete in order to be relevant as Muslims, as American Muslims, as African American Muslims, as African American Muslims who may have come from a disadvantaged background, meaning economically, that we collectively need, meaning working together, we need to develop a skill set so that you can compete and so that you can remain relevant bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. One of the famous writers, historians, black historians, Carter G. Woodson, the author of Miseducation of the Negro, he said then, back in the 20s, he said that the Negro, as they used the term back then, the African Americans are facing economic extermination. And that is all the more the case today in this super high-tech economy. We, meaning African Americans, and not just African Americans, are faced with economic extermination. This means that skills need to be gained so that we can be relevant in a globalized economy. And the way to do this, what does that mean? How do we stay relevant? We must be educated, and we must be well informed. As for your place in this globalized society, look at the needs of the Muslims. Not just the Muslims in your city are hurting, the Muslims are hurting worldwide. As you acquire more of the Islamic knowledge, it will become increasingly clear to you that the cause of these problems in the Muslim world, or the Muslim communities in general, is the lack of traditional learning and a failure to critically understand and examine the trends that are dominating the world. Some of us, we might have learned, but we're not in touch with the challenges of 21st century society. You have people who've been in overseas and people in villages who have traditional knowledge, but they are not aware of the trends, what's going on in 21st century America. So you were here, you were faced with certain challenges, so in addition to the traditional knowledge and its implementation, meaning practice, in addition to that, there is a base of knowledge and information that you need in order to remain relevant. It says, compared to most of the Muslims on earth, you still live in a land of incredible abundance and opportunity. And that simply is the case. Yes, there are lots of problems in America, no doubt about it. But at the same time, this is a land of tremendous potential and abundance that is still available. There are places on earth that simply there is not access to the type of opportunities that are available to the vast majority of the people in the society. It is here, meaning this opportunity is here, but you must look for it and you must take advantage of it. Make it your duty first to reform yourself, meaning to rectify yourself, to improve yourself through obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then make it your goal to help others. That doesn't mean you have to master yourself before you help others, but you have to understand first priority is you. First priority is me. That you have to take care of yourself. Set that as your first priority. And inshallah, as you get stronger, then you can reach back and help those, and I make this condition, you help those who want to help themselves. Because there are many people who do not want to help themselves, and you can't help the one who doesn't want to help himself or herself. It says, be an upright and dignified example of a Muslim. Practice this religion. Be in your character. People should know that you are a Muslim, whether, for example, you are wearing a kufi or not. They should know that there is something very, very different about you simply by how you carry yourself. It says your behavior is the most salient aspect of your da'wah. The salient meaning the most apparent. Da'wah, your outreach as a Muslim, as you are calling people to Islam, your character itself should be a major component of your da'wah. But that does not mean that you don't get involved and teach people about the religion, that you don't learn the matters of the creed, as we said earlier, not only for your own safety, so that you can protect yourself, so that you know who's right, so that you can identify misguided groups and misguided people, but also that you use that knowledge, God willing, with sincerity, to try to educate and persuade people so that they can become Muslim, insha'Allah ta'ala. It says, be a beacon of integrity for others to follow. It is not time for games, it is a time for heroes. And see to it, God willing, that you are among the heroes, because this is a time that we're living in. And this isn't to think highly of ourselves, but we live in a time where there is a lot of misguidance and there is a lot of evil in this world. And there are people who are yearning for examples, meaning good examples. And see to it that you are among one of those people with all humility to God, Allah Ta'ala. This is not to be arrogant, but to follow the example of our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, so that you can be an example to help others, because there are many people who are in desperate need of help. It says, we live in an information age, and whoever is not well informed is going to fall behind, period. It's simple as that. This means that you must read and read a lot, and you must have good communication skills. Hence, you should be able to express yourself well, both in speech and in writing. You should know how to use the technology so that you can access more and more information and share it with others. Where do you get started? Since you are going to need to read a lot and read broadly, you do need to get strong, as we said in the very beginning, in the matters of Aqidah, in the matters of creed, and in the matters pertaining to apostasy. Because you have to be informed, you have to know what's going on in this world. And in order to examine things and understand things, and so that you do not become influenced by things you may read, or things you may be watching, or things you are listening to, that you don't get influenced in a way that goes against the rules of the religion, you have to evaluate that which the information that you acquire, you have to examine it through the standard, by the standard of Islam. So there are lots of things that we need to know about. But sadly, the case is that there are not a lot of reliable and trustworthy Muslims who are addressing these issues that are pressing concerns to the Muslims. So you will, God willing, as you acquire the knowledge of the religion and you get stronger, and then you see the needs of the Muslims, and you see that you are going to need skills. And the fact is that in many cases you're going to have to turn to people who are not Muslim in order to gain certain skill sets. Inshallah, we'll continue and read some more. It says, understand that the process of self-education takes time and it takes discipline. If you feel a sense of inadequacy because of your education, maybe you feel like, well, I didn't have a good education, I don't read very well, I'm struggling. If that is your situation, then don't be a coward. Face your fear. Face your fear. Okay, yeah, you know you slacked off in school. You might have even dropped out of school. Okay, now you feel, and there's something in you that you feel a sense of you're not up to par, that you are inadequate. Deal with this. Don't be a coward. Don't be a coward. Face yourself, face your fear, and strive to educate yourself. And I'm talking about the non-religious matters, because in the religious matters you have to acquire the knowledge through trustworthy teachers. The beginning of learning is learning the language of instruction. And for the time being, I'm speaking about the English language. You must gain proficiency, meaning skill, in formal English. If you want to use slang, and there's no problem with that, at certain times. But you have to gain, because your life will be limited. I mean, talking about life in America as things are and as the trajectory looks, that if you do not gain a command of formal English, your life will be severely limited. Your command of English your lack of a command, if you have a lack of command of formal English, your opportunities will be severely limited. So you have to gain a command of formal English, and inshallah by this many doors will open up for you, God willing. In order to do this, get a dictionary, make the dictionary your friend, and get a thesaurus. You can go to the library or to a thrift store, and you can get both of these books for less than $5 together. Keep a small notebook with you so that when you see or hear an unfamiliar word, write it down and look it up. And you can begin writing down any unfamiliar words that I might use in these videos. So there's a word and sometimes I will use if you wish, a $5 word, but that means you need to go look it up. Usually I will define it. But even if I do define it, if it was unfamiliar beforehand, then write it down. You have to develop your vocabulary. If you don't have, if you don't have a command of English, your opportunities are going to be severely limited. And the core of understanding the language is knowing the vocabulary. It says building your vocabulary is the key to gaining a command of the English language. Remind yourself of what Malcolm X said. He said, this was when he was imprisoned. He said, I saw that the best thing I could do was get hold of a dictionary to study, to learn some words. And if you know his story, and inshallah we're going to do another video, an appendix to this video, where we're going to talk about Malcolm and his experience with the dictionary. And it's also on the blog, you can look it up inshallah. Now let's say Malcolm did this while he was in prison. And it says here, you don't however have to go to prison to begin your self-education. Take advantage of your freedom, your time, and the thrift stores where you can typically buy books for less than $2. Therein, you can often find books on vocabulary improvement. So and books, not just stuff off a phone or on the internet. Books they have a significance. They have a significance in this sense. They are very beneficial in this sense. Also, there is a program called Verbal Advantage, and this is a program, and there are some issues religiously. There are a few statements in the series that you need to be careful of. And inshallah, but the program, it's 24 CDs, and it contains 500 core vocabulary words, and I believe 2,500 vocabulary, overall 2,500 vocabulary words. It's an incredible program, but as I said, there are some statements in it that are incorrect religiously, and you need to be warned about them. So God willing, inshallah, you can contact me and we can talk about maybe going and reviewing that program, inshallah. Let's continue. Also, in terms of getting material that can help you, there's the Internet Archive, and it's loaded with free audio programs that can enhance your language skills. Not only do you need to know the meanings of words, you should get in the habit of using these words. And do this by keeping a journal. One of the best things you can do is go and get yourself a college-ruled or a wide-ruled notebook and start keeping a journal. Let's talk about that. Try to write every day, even if it just entails writing what you did or what you want to do. Also, your ideas and your independent thinking will come with time, inshallah, as you start, because writing is different than talking. This requires that you arrange your thoughts in a certain way. And this requires that you start to think and start to focus in a very different way than just talking on the phone to somebody, for example. Also, by writing, you'll be leaving a legacy for other people and a legacy for the children you will have someday, God willing. Because as I mentioned in another series, in another post, that as African American Muslims, we don't have a written legacy. So it's important to write so that that legacy is recorded and not lost, God willing. Now when you first try to write, you may find trouble getting your thoughts together or expressing them. So what will help you in this process is to get some books to learn English grammar. And one of the best places to get started is to use some of what are called the ESL books. They're called English as a Second Language. Now, some people, they might make fun of you. Okay, why are you getting ESL books? These are books that are for people who did not grow up speaking English, for example. Don't worry about what, we said, you're not a coward. So don't worry about what other people say. You are on a mission. You have an objective. you want to improve yourself through your, talking about the self-education program, you're not concerned about what other people say, you're not concerned about what other people think, you are on a mission to improve yourself, that's it. As you advance, take the time out to study critical thinking, study logic, and study fallacies. This will train the mind to think carefully and precisely and make fine distinctions in your reasoning, and also you will critically examine the reasoning of others. This course of study will help you cool your emotions and think rationally and objectively. And as you know, in the hood, there are a whole lot of folks, it's almost like they're incapable of reasoning. It's all emotions. And by studying logic, by studying some critical thinking programs, studying fallacies, this will help you become less emotional and start to look at things and evaluate things in a more logical and objective manner. Also, what will help you in this is the study of what's called ilmul kalam. This is the study of the details of the creed and how to prove the creed of the Sunnis by using not only the proofs from the Qur'an and from the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but also by using the rational proofs. Because the Muslims, this is part of our legacy, and this is part of why I said we have to learn the matters of the creed. Because when you learn the details of the creed, you will learn these skills and how to reason properly. And inshallah, this will carry over in your secular studies, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Also, what I would recommend is to get two maps. To get a map of the world, a world map, and to get a map of the United States. Put them on the walls in your bedroom, and that way, if you're watching the news, for example, and you hear places that are mentioned, you can put pins on the map and you can start to, you will know where these places are in the country or in the world. This is very important because many people who are living in the hood, they have no sense of a world beyond their immediate environment. So it's important when you look at the map and you see the map and you see, oh, there's Mecca, oh, there's Medina, oh, there's Cairo, there's Istanbul. You see different cities in the Muslim world. Some of these places will be mentioned, of course, in the religious lessons, or other than that, like I said, in the news. It's important that you get a sense of the bigger world, and having those maps and looking and seeing where you are and seeing where other places are and their relations to other places. Inshallah, this is very important for the expansion of the mind, inshallah. Also, if you listen to the radio, and I'm not even going to talk about the music thing, we'll talk about that in a later session. If you're listening, for example, to what's called National Public Radio, there are a lot of problems with this, but in National Public Radio, there are a lot of ideas that are very whacked out that they promote on it. But if you are listening to the radio and you listen to that station, for example, when they mention certain places, like with the TV, when they mention certain places, write those places down. When you get home, look at them on the map, and then of course you can use, for example, Wikipedia, for example, just to look up, just to see where these places are and get some background on those places, inshallah. Now, in terms of the reading, where is a good place to start? Again, you have to acquire get the basic knowledge, and especially the knowledge of the creed. But in terms of reading and to expand your thinking, history is a good place to start. And with the history, I would say, not dealing with ancient history, because there's a lot of problems with that. But even if you start with American history, this is a good place to start because you live in America. It's important to understand this society. Now, you can start with general American history, or you could go with African American history. And again, I'm talking about American history, because if you deal with some of the ancient history, you will need, inshallah, someone to explain a lot of issues to you. But American history or local history, the history of your city, this isn't a bad place to start. And it's important to read and get informed. If you're studying African American history, I would say one thing is, don't read books that encourage you to feel like a victim. A lot of the way that nowadays, a lot of the black history is written from the point of view of feeling like it's designed to make you feel like a victim. Stay away from this. Gain the information and learn facts about black history, but don't feel like you're not a victim. You're not a victim. You're a Muslim. You're not a victim. So don't have this attitude that you're a victim, inshallah ta'ala. Now, and one of the benefits in studying African American history and this whole victim thing is that when you look at what African Americans accomplished 100 years ago, in spite of the real racism that African Americans were faced with, the terrorism from these white racists, these white supremacists, in spite of that, African Americans built institutions. They built communities. In spite of what they were facing, blatant, outright, outrageous racism that they faced, they still were able to build. And they were able to maintain their families to a much greater degree than they can today. And that should tell you that really the problem that African Americans are facing today, the core of it is not related to racism, it's related to something else. And inshallah, as you study the knowledge, as you acquire the knowledge of the religion, it becomes very, very evident that the problems, the bulk of the problems that African Americans face today are a result of their lack of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, their immorality. And that doesn't mean that white people are moral. I'm just saying that the African Americans, they are suffering their problems largely, not totally, because of a breakdown of any sort of moral structure in much of the culture. So as a Muslim, you have a standard. Your standard is not pop culture or quote-unquote black culture. Your standard to understand things, as we said earlier, is the rules of the religion. So in addition to studying history, for example, and again, American history, whether African American history or or American history in general, or local history, another area, another skill to gain, given that we are living in an era of globalism, is to expand your scope beyond the English language. And again, I'll this time quote Malcolm X. He said, "I love languages. I wish I were an accomplished linguist. I don't know anything more frustrating than to be around people talking something you can't understand. Aside from the basic African dialects, I would try to learn Chinese, because it looks as if Chinese will be the most powerful political language of the future. And I have already begun studying Arabic, because I think Arabic is going to be the most powerful spiritual language of the future." And this is what Malcolm said more than 50 years ago. Right now, we see the decline of the Western societies, and you see a rise of China, and alhamdulillah, you see again a renaissance, a reawakening in the Muslims are starting to wake up. And Malcolm, he saw this more than 50 years ago. The rise of China and, alhamdulillah, the rise of Islam. Now, in terms of your studies, in terms of language, I would say get started with Spanish. Spanish is an easy language. There are plenty of programs available online, free programs for learning Spanish language. If you have questions, again, you can contact facetofloor.wordpress.com, and I can give you some books and links, inshallah. If you want to get very ambitious, and again, this program that we're talking about, sad to say, this is not going to interest most of your peers. But if you want to get ambitious, start with Latin. Latin, I don't know of any tool for an English speaker that would help him gain an understanding of languages, not just English, but languages in general. I don't know any tool better than Latin, mashallah, but it requires some effort. But if you want to start, and again, to start so that you can build your confidence, you can start with Spanish. And you can use Spanish, inshallah, you can meet people online and elsewhere, people in the hood, depends on what city you're in, who speak Spanish. And inshallah, it's nice that you will see soon that you're able to gain some level of skill with Spanish, and you can start to communicate with the people you meet who are Spanish speakers. Now, as you proceed along your journey, you will find your own interests. This is the beginning. Just get the obligatory knowledge needs to be in place. The acquiring knowledge of English, gaining a command of formal English, reading so that your scope, your vision of the world, your thinking process can be expanded. And again, you need to read through the understanding of the rules of the religion, and then learning other languages so that inshallah that you will feel comfortable dealing with people from different cultures. You can communicate with people from different cultures, and just learn the confidence that comes from learning another language. These are some of the skills. Now, there's one other thing I want to mention. In terms of the rise of technology, that it is critical that, as I said earlier, that African Americans, if they do not step it up in terms of dealing with the technological challenges, meaning a lot of jobs already have been outsourced to other countries, and now with the rise of robots, lots of people are going to be put out of jobs. You need to see to it that you understand the technologies. You're not merely a consumer of technology, but you understand how this technology works, inshallah, and that you are a producer of this technology. There's a person, inshallah, I'm going to put the link down below. There's a person named Peter Diamandis, and he's the head of what's called Singularity University. And he talks about the trends not far down the road in terms of the technology. People who do not keep up with the technology, they will be out of a job. They will face economic extermination. And this is not anything to play with. And you already have the prison industrial complex, and now with the rise of this rapid expansion of technology, advance of technology, it is critical that you gain the skill set, a strong skill set regarding technology. So, mashallah, it is not time, as I said, it's not time to play. It is time to get serious and gain skills that, God willing, insha'Allah ta'ala, that will enable you not only to survive, but insha'Allah ta'ala to thrive, and that you can benefit others, because there are going to be people out there who are going to be in desperate need of the help that, inshallah, once you acquire these skills, they will be in desperate need of your help. So acquire this knowledge, inshallah ta'ala, fear Allah ta'ala, fulfill your obligations, strive to excel, so that you will, inshallah ta'ala, you will be among the best of the people in this world, meaning in terms of being a leader to benefit others, and also, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, that you will be among the best of the people in the afterlife. So inshallah, the next video, we will talk about another topic in terms of taking care of, inshallah, your health, because also, as it is important to take care of your mind, it is also important to take care of your body. Walhamdulillah, wa sallallahu ala rasulillah, and Allah knows best.